Welcome back to more of the post-Shriek Out reaction as part of our 31 days of THORGIWEEN. Every single day this month we have spooky, scary movie reviews for you, as well as some other Halloween-themed videos coming out, including a whole bunch of top 10s. So if you want to see any of those, make sure that you continue to follow us by clicking that subscribe button. There, got that out of the way at the very beginning of this. This is a very different type of movie review, though.
Yeah.
We've never done this before, but we watched a movie for the post-Shriek Out reaction, and as I was watching it, went, there's another movie out there that I saw being advertised that sounds exactly like this. So we actually watched two movies, and we're going to compare them as we review them. This is something we've never done, might be just a huge, big wash, and no one will ever want to see me do anything like this again. But it's a big experiment, and I'm excited for it.
Yay.
These are two films that were both made for streaming services out there. They came out a year apart from each other, so almost at the exact same time. One of them was made for Shudder, one was made for Rooster Teeth, and both of them are about people who go to festivals or outings, or however you want to phrase it, that are meant to recreate horror films, and then it turns out the horror film is real. It is kind of nuts that two different films made for two different streaming services that came out within a year of each other have a concept that I've never seen done anywhere else before. And it kind of really ticks me off because I actually think this concept is brilliant.
But you didn't like the way it was executed?
One of these movies I think is okay.
Yeah.
One of these movies I actually think is okay. The other one I think is awful. The other one I think is flat out bad. And I will give it some points when we get into it. But yeah, one of these movies I think is just a wreck. And it's weird, I was looking it up. The audience score on IMDb for this is actually about the same for both of them. Like, audiences in general were like, to both these things.
Yeah.
But I think that the people who watched each of these kind of had different expectations going in, because one of them is meant to be like a psychological thriller.
Yeah.
The other one is meant to be a horror comedy. I think one of them kind of succeeds at being psychological thriller-ish. I think the other one just stinks at being a horror comedy. So let's go into it. One of the movies is for Rooster Teeth. It's called Bloodfest. And it's about this kid who absolutely loves horror films, even though his mom was killed by a slasher movie-like serial killer when he was a little kid. But he loves the horror film still because, oh, it's escapism, and oh, you know, none of it's real. But he wants to go to this thing called Bloodfest, which is the biggest horror movie festival of all time. And he is able to sneak inside, even though his dad took his wristband away and said, you can't get in. He's able to find a way to get in because he knows a girl who is hooking up with a director who's going to be there. So she helps to get him in. They go inside, and then the guy who was hosting the thing, I feel like they wanted him to be a Willy Wonka style character. Like basically the Willy Wonka of horror. Because he's like, oh yes, all the terrible scary things that are out there for all you. But you know something? Terror's gotten stale. Our vampires sparkle. And like he's going on and about all this. And like, dude, that was a decade ago. That is an old ass reference these days. Horror is actually kind of at a high point right now. It's actually making a big turnaround. We have horror films being nominated for Best Picture. It's kind of making a comeback. But then he says, you know what? You're all going to help me film a movie, a real movie, in which the scares are all going to be real. And then it's revealed that there are cameras all over the place, and he's hired all of these actual psychopaths to go running around with chainsaws. He's got, like, dead bodies hooked up to electric shock systems that cause them to move around.
Yeah, and apparently, like, gamers are controlling them.
He's got, like, a room full of gamers, and they're like, oh, man, sir, these graphics are great, but why am I moving so slow? Well, you're playing a zombie. And there is actually a good line in here in which the guy says, well, when do I get to be one of the one of the victims? And he goes, oh, soon enough. That's actually a good line. I will give this movie praise when it succeeds. But yeah, and there's a area where they go into a Saw-like room where they have to like get out of all these traps. I give them credit for the idea. Like, I like that there's actually like a theme park style map up there that actually like shows like, here's Terrorland, here's Tortureland, here's Zombieville.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually enjoy that. It actually made me kind of go, it would be kind of cool if somebody set something like this up. That actually be kind of dope. Kind of reminds me of what they try and do at Universal Studios every single Halloween. I've always wanted to go to one of those where they actually have like different areas dedicated to different horror films. However, all the characters suck in this movie. They're all awful. And our protagonist, he's got nothing going for him.
Yeah.
But nobody really has anything going for him except for the horny virgin who wants to get laid, who's actually played by Ned from Spider-Man Homecoming. He's actually the reason I actually got interested in this film, because I was watching a trailer for it and I went, that's Ned from Spider-Man Homecoming. What's he up to now? Oh, a land full of horror monsters? That sounds kind of fun. I'll check this out. And the girl who is with the director, she's, I think, supposed to be like ditzy, but not really, kind of.
Yeah, it's like...
Her personality was never really that established.
Yeah, it's like she's supposed to be like the pretty girl who's doesn't know about
naive,
naive and doesn't really know a lot about horror movies, but wants to be famous. Or...
Yeah, so she's got that going for her, and then he's also got a female friend who he wants to hook up with. But again, I felt like she didn't really have a lot going for her. Like, she's kind of tough.
Like the token girl.
Yeah, she really was.
There's just like him, his best friend, and the girl, and they all love horror movies, and...
Yeah, and there was like a moment but like I said, the protagonist, I felt like he was the blandest of them all.
Yeah.
And there comes a moment in which he's having to face down this guy dressed up as his favorite slasher movie monster, and he goes like, hey, over here, and he calls him a name, trying to be like action hero style, and like, dude, you ain't got... I'm not saying that you, the actor, couldn't go on to do stuff, but in this movie, your character is so flat and so uninteresting. No, don't do that. Don't try and be cool at any time in this movie. It ain't working. Again, the actor could totally go on to do other things in which he is able to show off different sides of himself. But this movie did not give him that opportunity to show off different sides of himself. So yeah, everybody in here is just uninteresting, completely uninteresting. And I honestly hated the fact that all of it was fake. They have a moment in which they're talking about the vampires. There's an area where it's all these sexy vampire ladies in there. And the vampire lady is like, oh yes, just find a couple of European girls and promise them high-paying American jobs, and then sharpen their teeth, and then inject them with, and then they give off some chemical that increases pheromones or something, and also give them this disease that makes them need blood. And I was like, you're taking all the magic out of this. You're taking all the mysticism out of this. And I kept thinking about how the guy who runs this entire thing is supposed to be like a Willy Wonka of horror. If Willy Wonka had ever stopped and been like, here's some actual science about how the Oompa Loompas are made. Here's the exact science behind how your daughter can turn into a giant blueberry. It's like, that wouldn't be nearly as fun.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be interesting at all.
Yeah.
No, you can throw out there some science gobbledygook, but, they, would hold on the explanations for this stuff for way too long.
Honestly, they could have just been the girls could have just been obsessed with have a fetish for drinking blood or something like that.
Or you just don't give an explanation to any of it. Just he's a magical mystery man. This oh, he's some horror icon, but he's been gone for a long time and no one knows what happened to him, but he says that he found something that's going to help him make his new movie. And then all these monsters turn out to be real, and maybe you say he found an amulet or something that doesn't we don't need anything. The mystery behind why are all these psychopaths now suddenly alive and out of the movies, that is so much more interesting than stopping to hear this guy actually go, well, if you find people with psychological disorders and then you show them hundreds of hours of the same movie over and over again, eventually they're going to think they are those people from those movies. Oh, well, then I don't care. That just made this all so boring to me. So So yeah, I didn't find anything in this film interesting at all. And I can't remember any joke that actually landed in this entire movie for me. Man, I'm really trying. The moment when Zachary Levi popped up.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't bad. Which is so weird that Zachary Levi, his career, there is a good chance it's about to explode because he's going to be Shazam. I'm not going to come in here and like jinx that by going, oh, he's going to blow up because then for all we know the movie could be terrible and like he'll never work again. But yeah, it was one of those things that I looked at and I was just like, oh, he could possibly blow up in a little bit. And this is the thing he did right before that. That's kind of weird.
Also, there was like a running gag where it's like like the girl knows him as like the voice of Flynn Rider from Tangled.
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
Yeah, I thought that was cute.
I thought that was kind of cute.
Yeah.
Until it got to the point in which she was just like, when you do the smolder stuff, I got a little bit wet. Like, she didn't actually say those lines, but I mean, it was like, no, she stopped 1 inch from saying that's what happened to her. Hey, Peach.
Hey.
You done licking? Boop. Lick. Okay. But yeah, so, man, yeah, out of an hour and a half, that is weak sauce.
Yeah, and like the big reveal at the end was just...
That sucks so bad. Oh man, also both these films have big reveals. The end reveal is awful in this movie.
Yes.
The end reveal is that, remember how the dad took away his wristband at the beginning? He's like, you're not going to Bloodfest. His dad, after his wife was killed by a slasher-style monster, he became a well-known, nationwide-known psychiatrist who has gone around saying that horror movies are a disease and they must all be eliminated. And that's one of the reasons why he doesn't want his son going to this thing. It's revealed he set all of this up with the guy running this festival so that way this guy could make his ultimate horror movie, but also they could then take the camera footage and show all the terrible stuff that happened here, and then no one would make a horror movie ever again. And that's why he tried to keep his son from coming to this so that his son would be saved. That was awful.
Yeah.
That was a terrible reveal. Again, you're over-explaining something that really, like, the entire, like, impact of it is the less we know about why all this is happening, the better. And so that's one problem with it. But also, you look at it and it's like, how in God's name do you think any of this works? How do you get away with this? How do you think that you're going to...
How are you able to, like, get all the money to afford all of this?
Yes, that's another big part of this. Because, like, if it was, like, the movie director was rich and he decided to get all of this, that'd be one thing, but it's like, no, then the movie director doesn't need this guy at all. Like, this guy has to come in here for something, and then it's revealed that, like, his little sister is, like, some master slasher herself who has been trained by the dad to go in there and kill these kids. And the little sister, God, she is in this for like a quarter of a second at the beginning of this movie. When she popped up again as like one of the slashers, I was just like, who? I'm sorry, were you from a scene that got cut? Oh, okay, I guess you were the sister at the beginning of this thing. But the sister is just some chaos engine. Like, the sister just doesn't care.
It's like chaotic neutral, I guess.
Yeah, she's totally just chaotic neutral because she's like, all right, I'll help Dad kill everyone. Oh, Dad's dead now? All right, I guess I'll just do whatever now.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, there's a moment in which they're like, we gotta take you in, sis. No, you're not getting away with this. And then she just throws out her scorpion dagger against the wall and then just, like, jumps out the window holding onto it. I was like, when the fuck did your sister become an action hero?
Also, I just realized, like, his entire family is gone, so he's pretty much an orphan.
Yeah.
Like, his mother got killed, his sister ran away,
his dad is killed at the end of this.
But not really.
No, that's not your thing. At the end of this, you see a hand come out of the bell. That was the Willy Wonka guy.
Oh, yeah, because he's the one with the cane, right? I remember now.
Yes, so yeah, it's just like, all right, fine.
All right, I think that's, like, way worse. Like, this all could have been avoided if you just didn't do this stupid Bloodfest thing.
Yeah.
Like,
but yeah, so none of this movie makes any sense, and it's like, well, do horror movies have to make sense? If they're going to stop to explain it, yes. I have no problem with a horror movie not explaining shit. I don't need to know how lightning brings Jason back to life. Lightning brought Jason back to life. Done. That's all I need. This movie kept stopping to explain stuff. I was like, you are making this movie worse every single time you stop to do that. But also, I gotta bring it back. This is a horror comedy. All the jokes in here are awful. All the jokes in here are so bad in this movie. And they're trying so hard with everything in here. Especially to try and be cool to all the hip young kids out there. Because there's so many times in which they just stop and they will reference a thing just by saying, the thing. They will just say, it's like, oh, it's this thing. It's like, no, okay, it's fine. Like, there's moments where it's like, there's only two ways that horror movies end. Only one person survives, like this movie, this movie, this movie, this movie, or nobody survives, like this movie, this movie, this movie, this movie. It's like, yes, I am aware that movies exist. Thank you. Yes, I understand this now. Like, you didn't have to stop and do it. It felt like this movie kept constantly trying to prove its horror cred. Like, that's what this always felt like to me. But it's not just horror cred, it's also gamer cred. Because it's Rooster Teeth. And they have connections to the gaming industry. And that's what blew my fucking mind, is that there were so many times in here in which they would reference video games. I'd be like, I'm sorry, what? Because at the beginning of the thing, when Ned from Spider-Man Homecoming is introduced, he comes in there and goes, guys, last night, I had the best night. I spent the whole night hacking Overwatch, so I got all the ultimate skills. I was like, I am a diehard Overwatch fan. I have hundreds of hours in that game. There are no ultimate skills in that game. You have a skill that you use when your meter fills up, but that's not I hacked the game to get that. It's not, he made it sound like it's a thing you have to unlock. No, it's just, what did you mean by that? Do you mean like you just hacked it to get unlimited alts? Were you trying to say alts? Is that what you were getting? Like,
I thought he was trying to say, unlimited, skins.
That's what I thought, like, I got all the ultimate skins. Like, okay, that makes sense. No, he said skills.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well,
that's not
what?
a thing, what? That's not a thing in that game. That's not, what? You would think, if you were going to stop to turn on the camera and go, hey, young kids, we know what this thing is. You know what that thing is. And they do that a lot in this movie. There's so many times in which they stop and they're just like, it's this thing, everybody. It's like, wow. That just reeks of desperation. So if I had to give this movie a score, I'd give it a 3.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's low for me.
Yeah, it was pretty dumb.
You got...
I guess maybe around the same area, like 3 or a 4, something like that.
Okay, so maybe a little bit higher than me. Yeah, I did not enjoy this. All right, so that was Bloodfest. Next movie is for Shudder, and Shudder does not have the budget of Rooster Teeth, and you can tell because this looks like such a cheaper movie.
And yet it looks better. I think because, with Bloodfest, there's actually, a lot of blood, so,
Also, they definitely were just like, yeah, we're gonna go in there and just do this crazy stuff. And, you didn't build up any of this shit.
Yeah.
This all looks bad.
Yeah.
Whereas with this movie, it felt like they actually took their time and tried to work with what they had.
Yeah.
The movie we're talking about is called Ruin Me. And the idea behind Ruin Me is... it's not a big festival that they're going to do. Instead, it's like one of those escape room kind of things.
Yeah, but instead of trying to escape from a room, you are, sent out in the middle of the forest trying to solve puzzles.
Yeah, it's these people, they're going to pretend to kidnap you. Then they're going to take you out into the... oh, wow, it's kind of like that thing from Game Night. Then they're going to take you... wow, third movie we watched this year with a similar premise. Then they're going to take you out into the middle of the woods and drop you off there. And you're going to have to not only find your way back, but also some crazy people from an asylum escaped, and they might be out there in the woods hunting you down. Basically, they drop you into a horror movie. So yeah, you see why it's got a similar premise. It's, okay, we're going to this thing that's meant to replicate a horror film. Oh, the horror film was actually real. So yeah.
But, it wasn't entirely real in Ruined Me.
It becomes a different, the slasher thing actually gets dropped.
Yeah.
Halfway through this movie.
Yeah, and it becomes more of a psychological horror.
And that's, okay, I would say I actually like this movie, but I can't go too far into it because it feels like they didn't know what they wanted this movie to be. Because it feels like, okay, you're picked up for this big weekend adventure in which they're going to pretend like there's a slasher movie, in which you're in a slasher movie, and these slasher villains are after you, but then turns out it might actually be real, but you don't know if it's actually real or if all this is fake or what's going on. That's a good premise for a movie right there. But halfway through this film, they start to delve into our protagonist's backstory. And again, everybody there is a big horror movie fan except for our protagonist, who is the girlfriend to a guy going, but his friend dropped out, and she decided, well, I know that you can't get the money back for that ticket, so I'm going to go with you on this, even though I don't know anything about horror films. That is a really good premise.
Yeah.
She is now shoved into a horror film, and she's the only one who doesn't know anything about horror films. So yeah, you can totally make that work. That is a great setup for a movie. But, halfway through this film, they start going into her backstory, and they reveal that she used to be a heroin addict. And she actually almost died once from an overdose, and her boyfriend is actually the therapist who has been helping her to work through all of this. Okay. And then after that, as I said, the villains from this are supposed to be escaped mental patients. They start kind of messing with the idea that maybe she's actually an escaped mental patient.
Now, I remember, like, one of the other people who were, like, volunteered for this, like, Larry, I think he was the one who brought it up. By the way, Larry was such an annoying character.
See, Larry, again, is supposed to be the jokey guy in here, and I would have thought he was more annoying if we hadn't just watched Bloodfest. And I kept comparing him to the guy who was Ned in Homecoming. I kept comparing him to that guy, and I was just like, oh, you're better than he is in this film. Oh, you don't agree on that one? Oh, wow.
I don't know. He just came off as, like, a really scummy guy because he was hitting on the protagonist, and is like...
He was, but again, I'm comparing him in my head to the guy from Bloodfest, and I was just like, yeah, that would be kind of scummy, but at least he's kind of like, well, you know, never tried. Okay, he kind of like tries to laugh it off. Ned was just like, oh yeah, I will lay with her tonight. I was just like,
I guess again, so, but at the same
time, it's solely just comparisons.
Yeah,
right?
I guess so, but at the same time, like Ned's character is like a horny teenager, so I was kind of expecting that. So
fair enough. I see your point on this one. Yeah, so okay, man, he was not the one who I hated the most, though. Then again, the one who I hated the most, I think, was the one I was supposed to hate the most. Whereas I think with not Ned, sorry, Larry. I think with Larry, you were supposed to like him, so the fact that you hate him makes it that much worse.
I was like, God, I hope he dies. Like, that's just me throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, they do this thing in which it's like, okay, they're actually being hunted by real people. And then suddenly it turns into a Saw situation, which again, halfway through this movie, there's a Saw scene. Except the Saw scene in this, it's not like, you know, Jigsaw's popping out or anything. But she finds herself now suddenly on a beach, which how the fuck did they get to, how far is this woods from the beach? Raises questions.
I don't know, like maybe the woods are like right next to the beach.
There's some woods there next to the beach, so it's possible. But she wakes up on the beach, and she now has a
cuff
around her ankle, and goes into the water. And she kind of tries to follow it. It goes all the way out in the water, then comes back, and it's connected to her old junkie boyfriend,
who we never really got a very good introduction to.
The closest we got to an introduction to was every now and then she would have a flashback to the night in which she OD'd, and you would see like flashes of wake up, and that was it.
But like actually going to like the thing is like, oh hi, I'm here too. All right, let's get in the van, and that's it. Like,
yeah, that really.
So I'm like, wait, who is this guy? We established Larry, there was, like, the goth couple,
yeah.
And then there's, like, the protagonist.
The one mystery guy over there, who he's the first one to die in this film. But, yeah, you just find him there on the beach, and they have to figure out, okay, well, we think that there's a key over there, but one of us is going to have to actually go into the war where our cuffs are being weighed down, and we're going to have to, like, so that's the only way that the other one can get enough slack in order to be able to go over there and get the key. And yeah, it comes to this weird Saw situation. I was just like, you were a slasher film. Where's this coming from? Right here. This is very odd to me that it now switched, which I guess Saw is a slasher film.
Yeah.
Someone's going to come in here and correct me on this, but slasher film in the woods and all of a sudden giant crazy contraption. Yeah, it's
like the whole contraption thing works better in like
a
rooms,
a defined containment area.
Yeah, like that's why like
how did you build this out in the woods? And I mean, it's an actual like.
And like, what happens if like someone went in like the wrong direction and they got like clues that are not supposed to be solved until they later on in the game? Or
yeah, you're right, because this is still technically kind of part of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she runs out there to get the keys. Then she sees her current boyfriend there is connected to the key.
And if she pulls, he will like fall in on the like these spikes.
Yeah. But she's now got to run back to him with this key now stuck inside of her ankle bracelet in order to be able to let this guy get out from underwater. So it's a good idea for a contraption, but again, it's like, you can't give me that feeling that you are trapped somewhere when you are in the vast open field. I think that's my big problem with it, is that you're looking at this and you're just like, oh my goodness, they're trapped in this crazy contraption. How are they going to get around this? But then like you see, if he tumbles down this hill, he'll fall on spikes. Unless he, doesn't tumble down the hill and just gets up and walks and steps over the spikes, or maybe he just walks around the long way, because it's not like the spikes are going out infinitely in any direction. But yeah, it doesn't really, the Saw style scenarios don't work in the big open fields. Mm-hmm. They work in a confined space where you can't really escape this.
Yeah. It's like the only way to escape is to solve the puzzle.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's like, by the way, I kind of got annoyed like how easily she was able to solve all the puzzles, like she's some sort of like genius. Even
they were the kind of things that she would solve and I would just look at it, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, how did you come up to that conclusion? But it's like,
there's one that has to do with like, there's a tree that's split in two directions and behind it is another tree, and on each side of the trees of the split tree is like parts of a word, and what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to realize that because there's a tree in the middle of this split tree, you're supposed to add the word tree in between these split words, and then there will be a number in one of them that actually makes sense to the thing that you're doing, and then you put that number into a combination.
That was like really unnecessarily complicated puzzle, and it's like she just like solved in like 10 seconds or something.
Yeah, she solved that pretty quick.
Yeah, it's like, I get it.
But honestly, even if she had taken a while to solve that one, I would still be looking at it as like,
how? What?
That makes no sense. Yeah, it's the kind of thing in which it's like, someone had to give you the answer, because there is no way that you would ever be able to figure this out.
Yeah, speaking of which, like, how did the guy escape from the cuff when he was underwater?
I have a huge question about that one.
Yeah, there's like
we'll get into why I have a huge question about that in a second. But yeah, so after they escape from that, she's also taking these pills the entire time, and the boyfriend is kind of like, did you take your pills today? And she's like, you know I did. You saw me do it. I didn't see you do anything. I think you might have imagined that you did that. And she's saying they're antidepressants, they're not antipsychotics. I'm definitely not imagining things. I did see this stuff. So they are trying to set up this idea that she might actually be seeing things. She might actually be going insane. And towards the end of this, it actually turned into a scenario in which she sees like a cop on the side of the road, but she had to dress up as one of the serial killers to try and trick them. And now she's got like blood all over her because she had to actually shoot one of them. And she's running up to this cop screaming out, no, please, you gotta help me. It's like, you're bleeding, are you okay? It's like, that's not my blood. And he goes, hands on your head. And it's like, okay, so she's gonna get arrested by the cop now. And he's like, we heard a story about an escaped mental patient. You're wearing mental patient gowns. You have blood that's not your own on you. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to take you in. And then I don't even remember what happened in that exact scene, but she ends up finding her way to a bar, and in the bar is all the people from this game. And it was all part of the game. And yeah, it's one of those things where you look at it, it's like, you had such a simple premise here. You go to this weekend retreat where you're going to pretend to be hunted by a serial killer. Turns out there's an actual serial killer there. So simple. And the person who has to solve all this and save the day is the one person who doesn't know the rules of horror films. Great little twist in there. Nobody there can tell if this stuff is real or not. If it's an actual serial killer, if it's all part of the game. Who knows? But they had to make it so goddamn complicated, and they had to put in here like so many different plots, and they changed the entire premise of it halfway through to being like this, are you crazy or are you not? It's like, we don't need that. That is needlessly complicated for this. But
it's like, what pissed me off is like, it was all fake anyhow. Like, oh, is it real or not? It's like, yeah, it was all fake. So it's like, I don't know. I had to give like a point to like Bloodfest, but because at least it like holds up the idea that like that shit got real.
Shit, I don't want to give any points to Bloodfest. But you do bring up a good argument there. Yeah, when you look back at it all, it's not the kind of thing like, oh wow, I can't believe I made it through that. It's the kind of thing where you look back and it's like, you assholes! Fuck you! How dare you all do this? I'm breaking up with you now.
Yeah, I mean,
there were so many times in here in which I was just like, no, break up with his ass. Like,
yeah,
right
honestly,
now.
It's like, if you know that this woman is like suffering from like mental issues and she's like recovering from a drug addiction.
Especially if you're her therapist.
Yes, do you really think it's a good idea to take her out into the woods where she might think she might get killed? That's just...
Being in a supportive relationship, they said that she came because she's a supportive girlfriend. The supportive relationship goes both ways on this, all right? You need to realize when it's a shitty idea to take her someplace.
Yeah, and by the way, like, he said, oh, I lied. Like, my friend is not sick. I brought you here because I
was afraid you were going to relapse.
It's like...
You thought this was the best place for that? The place in which the entire premise of this is to make it is to stress you way the fuck out.
Like, if you want like a nice peaceful camping trip, that's fine. But like, you really had to like go through all this shit and like, oh, spoilers! Apparently, her boyfriend is a total asshole in more ways than one. Like,
in all fairness, the last time someone took somebody who was about to relapse out for a nice cabin in the woods trip, it turned into The Evil Dead. So, I'm talking about the reboot. Which actually is not that bad. Actually, it's not bad at all. I actually really like the reboot of Evil Dead. It's just very different from the original. But that's an entirely different film. Yeah, at the end of this film, she gets out of the car while they're at a gas station, and she dials the number of her ex-boyfriend, the one who was the junkie, because she's like, yeah, he was definitely there with me on the beach. I definitely saw him there, and then he was just gone from his shackles when he went back into the water to see if he was okay. And then she hears his phone ringing from the trunk of their car. And they open the trunk of the car, and he's in there, which it turns out that her current boyfriend kidnapped him for this because he wanted to make sure that she was fully clean. So he was going to arrange a situation where she would have to choose save him from drowning and get the current boyfriend impaled on some spikes, or save the current boyfriend and let him drown. And she chose to go and save the guy who was drowning.
Honestly, the guy who was drowning was in a way worse situation.
Yeah, because this guy, he tumbled down onto a tiny few spikes and got like one that like cut him on his leg.
Oh, boo-hoo.
And as I said, you're in a big-ass field. This thing doesn't go on infinitely. This dude could just like walk around the field and be totally fine. Just avoid the spikes completely. That dude is going to drown in like 5 seconds if you don't get back there. So, man, you can't blame her for that one. But he basically set all this up so she would have to choose, let him die or get me injured. And I was like, well, you made the wrong decision, so I guess I still can't trust you on this thing. So you're going to have to kill him right now if you want. And there was a moment in which I thought, are you going to high tension me on this thing? Are you going to high tension me in which you reveal okay, spoiler for High Tension, everybody. Sorry. It's a great French horror film. You should check it out. In which you reveal, she actually was psychotic, and she actually has been doing evil shit without her knowing the entire time, and she's the one who kidnapped the ex-boyfriend and shoved him into the trunk of the car, and she's been the one messing with all these people this whole time. Are you going to do some shit like that? No, the boyfriend was doing this because the boyfriend just happens to be insane. And that's it. And then the movie ends with the junkie boyfriend being stabbed by the new boyfriend, and then she has to stab her current boyfriend, and they're both dead, and she looks up at the sky and screams.
Like, honestly, I felt like that that scream was unnecessary. Like, if this just, like, panned out with her just...
The silence would have been, like...
Yeah, like, just her coming to the
shaking.
realization that, like, they're all dead, and, like, I think that would have been, like, way more effective.
Yeah. Or there is actually a safe word you can say during this thing to get you out of there. What about the end of this, after she stabbed him, she just, like, sat there quietly for a moment, and then she just, like, starts repeating the safe word to herself over and over again or something like that. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
This movie starts so much better than Bloodfest, and man, it crumbles halfway through.
Yeah.
And what gets me about this is that you didn't need any of that other shit in there.
Yeah, it's like with Bloodfest, it's like, it was meant to be kind of stupid, so...
Yeah.
I'm giving that one a little bit more slack. I know you're gonna hate me for that.
No, do what you gotta do. So far, with all the movies we've reviewed this month, I've been enjoying them more than you, so it's only fair that we eventually get to one that you like more than me. It just sucks it's one that we both don't like.
Yeah. I was honestly, that's the thing. Like, both of these movies have, like, really good premises, but they just drop the ball so badly.
Yeah, and the thing with Bloodfest is that I look at it dropping the ball, I'm just like, well, that's just sheer incompetence. And I look at Ruin Me dropping the ball like Icarus. Like, nah, man, you flew too close. You had a good thing going for you, and they're like, no, we can get an even better twist in here. No, stop that shit. Take it back a little bit. Oh, man, yeah, that's what bums me out about it so much. I'm giving Ruin Me a 5. I'll give it a 5.
Yeah.
Where do you give it?
Yeah, I guess I'd give it a 5 too. I mean, like, I like the setup more in Ruin Me better than Bloodfest.
There's definitely that.
Yeah.
I think that Bloodfest could have been a ton of fun with that setup.
Yeah.
But I think it was just the incompetence. Like, man, none of the dialogue's good. I don't like any of these characters. I think that you're wrecking a lot of what would have been fun with needless explanation about all this stuff. Yeah, I think that they just constantly kept screwing up this idea that they had. Ruin Me, I was like, okay, this is a way simpler setup. I kind of dig it, and you're actually working with it. There are things that I don't like in the beginning. Like, I do think that there are characters that are a bit too extreme. Like, the guy who runs the thing and comes out of the van with, like, a giant stain on his shirt. And it's like, oh, I can do it. Like, just barking at them in their face. I was like, man, if I was going to this thing, even if I was excited about the moment I saw this motherfucker, like, screaming, like, we can touch you however we want during this, I'd be like, out. We're not giving you your money back. I don't give a shit. Fuck you. Like, I would be like, yeah, that was a big problem I had, like, instantly with this thing. Also, there are other moments in here in which they try too hard, like the polyamorous girl in here. Not that, like, I'm saying, like, hey, don't have polyamorous people in movies. No, not at all. Happy with all sexualities in movies. But man, they were trying way too hard with it.
Like, you fuck.
She is fucking everyone that she looks at.
She fucked Larry. It's like, why would you, honestly, why? He is such a horrible, disgusting person. Why would you touch him? Ew.
Wow.
I don't like Larry. I don't. I wanted him to die. For real.
We all have those characters in our film. Oh, wow. I did not know that you had that much hatred for Larry. Wow. Oh, I didn't like her because I thought that she was written poorly. You didn't like her because she fucked Larry. Oh, man. Oh, 1 point off for fucking Larry. You know what? Another thing in the column of Bloodfest, no one fucked Larry. I would honestly say it sounds to me almost like you're neck and neck on on these two films. Like,
yeah, probably.
Oh, okay, all right, okay then. Oh yeah, but yeah, it's sad because it's like this is such a great premise, and yet I really think that both these just screwed up that premise so much.
Like not even Ned's character like got laid. Larry got laid.
Ned got laid.
Did he?
He got laid with the actress.
Oh, I thought like he got killed before.
No, when he was dying, they said, you can't die in here, the virgin always lives. And he goes, then I guess I'm a dead man. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they fucked when they were in the bathroom.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, so, okay, fine, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, he wasn't a disgusting slob in that
No,
moment. Yeah,
that's-
I'll give him that. Like, he actually kind of gets, like, sweet.
Yeah.
He gets to be, like, a nice guy. Also, the vampire killed him. Oh, sorry, kicked the camera. The vampire killed him at the end of that because she was like, oh, sweet virgin. And he's like, actually? And then she kind of freaks the fuck out. Yeah, it's kind of weird when we watch both these films back to back, we forget some shit.
Yeah.
But alright, so... Oh man, this was a weird experiment having to compare two films that had similar premises. We might do that again.
Maybe.
Because do you know how many fucking horror films have the exact same
Yeah,
premise?
exactly. So
Yeah, we might do that. If you guys want to see us do more comparison things, let us know.
Comparisons? That was a horrible pun.
I can't come up with something better. Camp Crystal Parison? No. Camp Parison Lake? No, I got nothing. I'll come up with something. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. We have got way more. We're on, what, day 4
Something
of
like
THORGIWEEN? So yeah, we got 27 more horror movies to review, as well as tons of other spooky, scary themed videos all month long. Thank you guys for tuning in, and remember, happy Halloween. Bye.
Bye.